The room went silent the moment she said it. Do you even know where you are? This is $1 billion company, not your little corner shop. Every eye in that glass lobby turned toward me, and for 1 second, I let her believe I was exactly who she thought I was. A nobody. A mistake her sister married. What she didn't know was that in less than 3 minutes, the same security guard she'd just waved off like furniture would call me sir in front of everyone. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Grandpa's Story Chair. But before we get into what happened in that lobby, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? What city? What country? I read every single comment, and I'd love to know who's sitting with me for this one. My name is Daniel Reyes, and 3 years ago, my life looked nothing like it does now. I was 44 years old, living in a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of Millbrook, Ohio, with a leaking kitchen faucet I kept promising myself I'd fix. Every morning started the same way. 6:15 alarm, instant coffee black because the good stuff felt like an unnecessary expense. My old Ford pickup, the one with 190,000 miles on it, coughing twice before it finally started. My wife, Claire, used to laugh at how predictable I was. You could set a clock by you, Daniel, she'd say, handing me a lunch she'd packed the night before. We didn't have much, but we had rhythm. A rhythm that felt safe. Claire came from a different world than mine, though. Her younger sister, Vanessa, had married into money, real money, and worked her way up in corporate finance until she landed a senior position at one of the largest firms in the state. Vanessa never let a family dinner pass without mentioning her office view, her assistant, her latest promotion. And every time, she'd glance at me with this small, polite smile, the kind of smile that said everything without saying anything at all. I didn't mind, mostly. I worked in logistics. Quiet, steady work, and I liked my life. I liked fixing things with my hands. I liked that Claire and I could sit on our porch on a Tuesday evening and just exist without needing anyone's approval. But there was one thing about my life that even Claire didn't fully understand. Something I had built quietly, patiently, over almost 2 decades, long before I ever met her. Something I never talked about at family dinners, never brought up over turkey at Thanksgiving, never once mentioned to Vanessa. That Tuesday morning, Claire got a call. Her company was hosting new business partners at their downtown headquarters, and Vanessa, in a rare gesture, had invited us to stop by afterward, just to see where she worked. Claire was excited. She wanted me to wear my good shirt. She wanted her sister to see that we were doing fine, even if fine looked different from Vanessa's definition of it. I remember tying my shoes that morning and feeling something I couldn't quite name. Not nerves, not excitement, just a quiet, steady, knowing the kind you get right before something in your life is about to shift. The building rose 42 stories into the sky, all glass and steel, catching the afternoon light like something out of a magazine. Claire squeezed my hand as we walked toward the entrance. Just be yourself, she whispered, though I wasn't sure who she was, reassuring me or her. The lobby was enormous. Marble floors so polished I could see my own reflection. A massive company emblem stretched across the back wall, 3 interlocking silver rings. The kind of logo you'd recognize from business news channels. I'd seen that logo before, more times than Claire knew. Vanessa met us near the reception desk, dressed sharp in a tailored navy suit, her heels clicking against the marble with practiced confidence. "Claire, you made it," she said, hugging her sister before turning to me with that same polite, distant smile. "Daniel, good to see you." "You too, Vanessa. Place is impressive." "It should be," she said, laughing lightly. "It's worth $20 billion, give or take." I nodded and said nothing. We hadn't been standing there 2 minutes when a young security guard approached, glancing at a tablet in his hand. "Mr. Reyes?" he asked, looking directly at me. Vanessa's eyebrows lifted. "Reyes? You know someone here, Daniel." I started, but the guard cut in gently. "Sir, if you'd like, I can have someone escort you up whenever you're ready. No rush." Vanessa laughed the kind of laugh that wasn't really a laugh, more like a scoff dressed up politely. "Escort him up? Daniel, what is this? Some kind of joke?" "It's nothing," I said quickly. "Probably mixed me up with someone." But the guard didn't move. He just stood there, waiting, like he had all the patience in the world. Vanessa turned to Claire, amused. Does your husband have a twin we don't know about? Then, looking at me, her tone shifted, sharper now, edged with something I hadn't heard from her before. Do you even know where you are? This is a billion-dollar company, Daniel. Not your little corner shop back in Millbrook. A few people near the reception desk glanced over. I felt Claire stiffen beside me. Vanessa, Claire said quietly. That's not necessary. I'm just saying, Vanessa continued, crossing her arms. Some people don't belong in rooms like this, and that's okay. Not everyone has to. I looked at the guard, who was still standing there patiently, tablet in hand, waiting for my answer. I looked at Vanessa, whose smile had turned into something colder, something that wanted an audience. And I looked at Claire, whose eyes were pleading with me, though for what, I wasn't sure yet. To stay quiet? To defend myself? To leave? I took a slow breath. Actually, I said, my voice calm, I think he's got the right person. The lobby, which had been humming with quiet conversation, suddenly felt very still. Vanessa blinked. What do you mean, he's got the right person? The security guard, whose name tag read Marcus, straightened slightly. Mr. Reyes is on the list for the board meeting at 3. I was told to bring him up whenever he arrived. The board meeting, Vanessa repeated, laughing again, though it sounded thinner this time. Daniel doesn't work here. He works in logistics, right? Shipping? I don't work here, I said quietly. That's true. Then what? Before Vanessa could finish, a voice cut through the lobby, sharp and formal. Mr. Reyes, we've been waiting. I turned to see a tall man in a charcoal suit walking briskly toward us, flanked by 2 others carrying tablets and folders. I recognized him immediately, Charles Whitfield, the company's CEO, a man I'd spoken to on the phone 11 times over the past 2 months but had never met in person. He extended his hand and shook mine firmly. Sir, it's an honor. I wasn't expecting you to come through the main lobby. We usually have the private elevator ready. The entire lobby had gone quiet. Vanessa's face had drained of color. I wanted to see how things looked from the ground floor, I said. Sometimes that tells you more than a boardroom does. Of course, sir. Whenever you're ready. Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. Claire was staring at me now, her hand still in mine, her grip tightening. Daniel, she whispered. What is happening? I turned to her gently. Do you remember the investment firm I told you about? The one I started before we met Redwood Capital Partners? She nodded slowly. You said it was small. A side project. It was small, I said. 19 years ago. It isn't anymore. Vanessa's voice came out barely above a whisper. Redwood Capital. That's the fund that acquired a controlling stake in this company last spring. Yes, I said. That's mine. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything that had come before it. Marcus, the security guard, stood a respectful distance away, clearly trying not to smile. Charles Whitfield cleared his throat. Sir, the board is ready whenever you are. I looked at Vanessa one last time. Her arms, once crossed with such certainty, now hung loosely at her sides. There was no triumph in me, no desire to make her feel smaller than she'd made me feel just minutes earlier. Just a quiet tiredness, and underneath it, a strange kind of sadness that it had taken $20 billion for her to consider that I might belong in a room like this. I need 5 minutes, I told Charles. Family matters first. He nodded and stepped back with his team. I turned to Claire, whose eyes were wet now, somewhere between shock and disbelief. And then to Vanessa, who couldn't quite meet my eyes anymore. I'm not here to prove anything, I said softly. I just came to see my wife's sister's office. That part was true. I didn't fire anyone that day. I didn't demand an apology, didn't make a single call to have Vanessa moved to a smaller office or stripped of her title. Some part of me had imagined, years ago, that if a moment like this ever came, it might feel satisfying. It didn't. It just felt quiet. Vanessa found me an hour later, near the elevators, waiting for Claire to finish freshening up in the restroom. She looked smaller somehow, without the confidence she'd walked in with. I didn't know, she said. I'm sorry, Daniel. I've spent years assuming things about you that weren't true. You didn't know because I never told you, I said. That's on me too. Why didn't you? All those dinners, all those comments I made. Because I never needed you to see me differently to know who I was, I said. I built Redwood for myself, not for approval. Not even from family. She nodded slowly, and for the first time in years, I saw something honest in her face instead of performance. We didn't become close overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild in a single conversation, no matter how dramatic the moment that starts it. But over the following months, Vanessa started showing up differently, smaller gestures, real ones. A text asking how my mother was recovering from surgery. An actual question about my work, not a comparison to hers. Claire told me once, sitting on our porch with the same two mismatched mugs we'd always used, that she didn't fall in love with a billionaire. She fell in love with a man who fixed leaking faucets and packed his own lunch, and never once made her feel like she needed to be anything other than herself. I think that's the part Vanessa finally understood. Months later, standing in that lobby with nothing left to prove, money never made me who I am. It just gave people a reason to finally look closer. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and share it with someone who still believes kindness matters. And in the comments, let me know kindness still exists. If you believe even one good act can change someone's life,